Speak less to impress, more to connect. Let silence hold strength and timing carry care. Ask with heart, not for applause. Drop the tricks. Choose truth. Your words, when real, will echo deeper than performance ever could. Be still, be sincere, be soulful. That's the language she'll never forget. Words are power, not just syllables stitched together, but vessels of memory, of dreams, of hurt, of healing. A single word can cradle the heart or crush the spirit. A sentence sent across silence can lift a woman from doubt into divine knowing. And so we must never treat words as ordinary. They are not. They are sacred. When a woman reads a message, she doesn't just see the letters. She feels the rhythm. She listens with her intuition, with her past, with every inch of her softness that has ever been bruised or blossomed. She doesn't respond to spelling or clever tricks. She responds to the music behind the message. The tone you carry in your words either invites her in or reminds her why she's guarded. See, words may travel by screen now, but their roots remain ancient. They carry weight. A text is never just a text to a woman who has learned the cost of miscommunication. So speak with intention, not to get her attention, but to earn her trust. Let your message be a place where she can lay her thoughts, not a performance for her praise. When you write, remember, kindness does not require length, and sincerity needs no decoration. I see you, said plainly, echoes louder than a dozen sweet nothings. You don't have to stretch yourself into a poet, but you do have to show your soul. Speak as if your message might be the one kind word she receives today, not to flatter her, but to remind her of her worth. And timing, too, is a language. When you message her not out of boredom, but from presence, she can feel it. She knows when your words are fresh from your truth and not borrowed from a moment of loneliness. And she deserves your fullness, not your fragments. When you choose your words with reverence, something beautiful happens. Your message begins to carry an aroma of thoughtfulness, of respect, of quiet strength. And that, my dear, is irresistible. For it says, here is someone who does not toss words like confetti, but places them like prayers. Do not fall into the habit of texting as a trick, a tactic, a checklist. That way of speaking lacks grace. And grace, though quiet, is what women listen for. They want to know, are your words a mirror or a mask? Do they reflect something real or do they simply perform? If you say good morning, let it be more than a phrase. Let it carry warmth, as if the morning is better because her light lives in it. If you say, how are you? Don't scroll past her reply. Wait for it. Hold space for it. Let your words breathe with patience. The difference between a text that touches and one that's tossed away is rarely about what is said, but how wholly it is meant. Even in silence, words linger. So speak with care because the heart remembers. And a woman who has heard it all can still be moved by the rare sound of truth. Not a grand declaration, but a small sentence full of soul. I thought of you today. That can open doors no key ever could. There's no need to pretend, no need to flood her with fancy. If you speak with depth, she will wade into it, but if you skim the surface, she will float away untouched. Because a woman can sense when words are rooted and when they are not. Let your message not be a performance, but a presence. Let it not be timed by convenience, but guided by care. If you send her something of you, not just your name, but your thought, not just your desire, but your dignity. Words, when wielded with respect, do not manipulate. They move, they melt, they mend. They are not tools of conquest, but instruments of connection. And oh, what beauty lies in connection. A message sent with meaning may reach further than you imagine, deeper than you know. So speak like it matters, text like it matters, because it does. And she, the woman who reads your words, is not reading them with just her eyes. She is reading with her entire story. Give her something worth holding. Give her something she can feel. There is a rhythm to everything sacred. The tides do not rush. The moon does not beg the sun to rise. A rose opens only when it's ready. And so it is with words. When they are sent, how they are sent, and the silence in between, they all carry meaning. Timing is not just about the clock. It is about presence. It is about intention. A message sent in haste has no melody. A message sent with stillness in the soul arrives with grace like rain touching the earth after a long, dry season. Women feel the weight of timing, not because they are impatient, but because they are deeply attuned. They know the difference between a message born from boredom and one born from thought. You see, when you send a message matters just as much as what it says. A word sent at the right moment can soften a wound. A check-in at a quiet hour can feel like a warm hand on the shoulder. But a message sent out of routine or from a place of carelessness feels like noise. And a woman knows how to listen past the noise. When you wait until you're truly present, truly there in spirit, and then you reach out, that's when your message becomes more than text. It becomes touch. It becomes tenderness through technology. She feels not just that you wrote, but that you meant to, that you weren't driven by a moment of distraction or obligation, but by a genuine desire to connect. There's power in timing, and not just in the quick reply. There's power in pauses, in space, in letting words breathe before rushing to send them. A man who masters timing does not need to flood her inbox. He simply knows when to speak and when to be still. And stillness, when filled with purpose, feels like strength. It's not about texting her morning, noon, and night. It's about why you text. It's about showing up in moments that matter. A simple, well-timed message can say, "I see you," without saying those words at all. When she's had a long day, a soft, thoughtful text, no agenda, no need, just presence, can be more intimate than 1,000 compliments. When your timing reflects her life, when your words align with her rhythm, it shows her something rare, that you are aware, that you are not speaking to fill space, but to honor it, that your presence doesn't demand, it offers, that your voice respects the silence before it breaks it. Women notice when you remember a time that matters to them, not birthdays, not holidays, but ordinary moments that are sacred only to her. She remembers that you waited until her meeting ended before checking in, that you messaged her just after she mentioned her evening walk, that you listened with your timing, not just your texts. And that, my dear, is where magic lives. But timing isn't just in the moments you reach out, it's also in the moments you don't. A wise man knows not to text when his spirit is restless, when his ego needs validation. Because those messages, though they may come often, fall flat. A woman will read the need in them and feel the emptiness. She doesn't resist you. She resists being a placeholder for your passing emotion. True timing is felt, not forced. It's the message that comes after a memory, the reply that doesn't rush, but respects reflection. It's the moment you wait, not because you're playing a game, but because you want your words to be real when they arrive. And women, oh yes, women feel the difference. Don't let the world rush you into texting without thought. Don't let silence scare you. There is a kind of silence that nourishes, a kind that builds longing, not distance. If your words are rooted in meaning, they will not spoil in stillness. They will arrive fresh, no matter how long they take. Some of the most powerful messages are sent with no expectation, at no convenient hour, with nothing more than presence. Thinking of you, I hope your day is gentle. Rest well tonight. Sent not to provoke a reply, but to give her a reason to smile. That is timing. That is grace. In every message, in every pause between them, you are telling her who you are, not through the words alone, but through when and why you send them. The heart knows what the clock cannot measure. Intent over emoji, meaning over decoration. A woman will not be moved by a string of smiling faces if the soul behind them is silent. She will not be softened by hearts if the hands sending them are empty. No, it is not the symbol that stays with her, it is the spirit. We live in an age where emotion is often abbreviated, dressed up in bright colors and animated winks. But a woman with depth sees through the glitter. She listens beyond the symbols. She reads between the lines. And what she searches for, more than anything, is intent. Let your message carry meaning, not performance. If you say, I miss you, let it be because your spirit truly aches in her absence, not because you ran out of other things to say. If you send a kiss, let it be because your words were too small to hold the tenderness you feel, not because it's routine. She needs you to dazzle. She needs you to mean it. Mean the check-in, mean the question, mean the good night. Let your message be more than a habit. Let it be a moment of genuine connection. Because a woman of worth is not waiting for performance. She's waiting for peace, for safety, for something steady in a world too quick to pretend. Your intent tells her whether she can rest in your words or run from them. So send less if you must, but send true. Speak when you are ready to offer something real. If your spirit is in your message, she will know. You won't need to explain, decorate, or convince. Your intention will walk ahead of your words, and she will meet it with open eyes. There is a strength in stillness that many cannot understand. The world rushes. It taps its foot, taps its screen, demands answers, demands movement. But a woman of wisdom knows not everything grows by being pushed. Not everything blossoms under pressure. Some things rise in silence. Some truths form in stillness. To be still is not to be absent. To be still is not to disappear. It is to gather, to breathe, to root yourself in clarity before you speak, before you act, before you reach. There is a power in the pause that says, I will not be moved by noise. I will not be rushed by fear. Stillness is strength dressed in calm. It is the choice to wait, not out of passivity, but out of presence. It is not silence that ignores, but silence that listens deeply, attentively, patiently. Because not all questions require quick answers, and not all emotions need immediate reactions. A strong soul knows that sometimes the most courageous act is to be still and let the truth come on its own time. When you are still, you begin to see. You begin to hear things hidden beneath the surface. The motives in a message, the weight behind a word, the subtle shift in energy. Stillness sharpens your insight and anchors your intention. It is in stillness that you realize every message doesn't deserve a reply. Every gesture doesn't require your reach. Some things can fall away without your interference, and that too is grace. To be still is to let the moment breathe, to not crowd it with your need to fix, explain, or be seen. And that restraint, that dignity, speaks volumes. A woman, when she sees a person who does not rush to fill silence, notices. She sees the calm, she sees the control, and she listens closely because stillness commands attention without asking for it. There is a world of difference between withdrawal and peace. One comes from fear, the other from wisdom. Stillness that is rooted in strength does not come from confusion. It comes from knowing who you are, knowing what matters, knowing when to speak and when to hold your tongue, knowing that power doesn't always roar, it sometimes whispers. When you are still, you no longer chase. You no longer grasp for validation. You no longer try to convince someone of your worth. You let your energy speak. You let your silence testify. You let your presence linger without needing to shout. And in that space, you find freedom. Not the kind that comes from walking away, but the kind that comes from standing firm. Being still also means you are not moved by every emotion that passes through. Feelings rise, but they do not define you. Thoughts come, but they do not shake your core. Stillness is a place of quiet power. It is where you respond instead of react, where you choose instead of chase, where you rest, not because you've given up, but because you trust that you don't need to force what's meant for you. In love, in connection, in communication, stillness is a test. When you do not text first, do you feel forgotten? Or do you trust your worth is not dependent on chasing someone's attention? When there is silence, do you fill it with panic? Or do you lean back, knowing that if the bond is real, it does not vanish in quiet? A woman will notice if your silence is laced with insecurity, or if it is woven with wisdom. She will feel if your stillness is a game, or if it is grace. And she will respond not to the loudness of your words, but to the depth of your energy. Stillness, when authentic, is magnetic. It tells her, I am grounded. I am not easily shaken. I am not moved by fear. And that stillness becomes a shelter, one she may want to rest in. You do not need to always be available to be reliable. You do not need to always speak to be understood. Sometimes your absence, when rooted in truth, speaks more than your presence ever could. Sometimes the pause holds more beauty than the sentence. And so be still, not to disappear, but to return to yourself. Be strong, not in resistance, but in reverence. Let your quiet become your clarity. Let your restraint become your roar. You do not need to shout to be heard. You do not need to chase to be chosen. You need only to stand still and strong and let what is real find you. There is something sacred about being asked. To be asked is to be seen. It says your voice matters, your thoughts are welcome, your world is worth entering. A true question holds more power than the finest performance, because a performance seeks applause, but a question seeks connection. The world has become loud with performers, people who say what they think you want to hear, who dress their words in flattery, who offer charm in place of curiosity. But charm fades. Applause dies down, and a woman who has known herself cannot be won with a show. She is not moved by gestures meant to impress. She leans into the quiet strength of someone who listens, not just with ears, but with heart. Don't tell her what you think she wants to hear. Ask her what she truly feels. Ask her what wakes her up at night. Ask her what brings her peace. Ask her what she's tired of pretending not to care about. The answers may not be poetic, but they'll be real. And real is what remains when the performance ends. Performers speak to be praised, but those who ask, they speak to understand. And understanding is a kind of love, not the loud kind, not the flowers and fireworks kind, but the quiet, consistent kind that builds trust. To ask is to make space. It's to say, I'm not here to impress you, I'm here to know you. There's a beauty in being asked without being judged, a freedom in speaking to someone who isn't waiting to respond with a better story or a practiced compliment. And when you ask, not to manipulate, not to measure, but simply to know, you invite her truth. You make room for the parts of her that no one else pauses long enough to see. Performing is easy, it's surface, it's polished, it's predictable, but asking takes courage. It requires humility. It means admitting you don't know it all. It means saying, teach me something about your world. And a woman will recognize that humility. She'll hear it in your tone. She'll feel it in your silence, the kind that waits, not awkwardly, but openly. You don't have to come with all the answers. In fact, it's better if you don't. A genuine question holds more power than a practiced monologue. You can rehearse a speech and never touch her soul. But one honest question, asked at the right moment, can open a door that no performance ever could. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be clever. It just has to be sincere. What brings you peace? What are you afraid to say out loud? What do you need that no one sees? Questions like these don't entertain, they connect. They don't sparkle, they soften. They remind her that she is not just being looked at, but looked into. Ask about the stories behind her smile. Ask about the places she's left and the parts of herself she's still trying to gather. Ask what makes her laugh the loudest and what silence feels safest. In asking, you do not lose yourself. You reveal yourself. You show her that you are not afraid of depth, that you are not here for applause, but for truth. Performance is built on ego. Questions are built on care. A woman knows when she's an audience and when she's a participant. She knows when she's being impressed and when she's being invited in. And she will always be drawn to the space where she can bring her whole self, not just the version that claps. Don't try to impress her with stories that center you. Ask about the stories that center her. Ask and listen. Not with the intent to reply, but with the intent to hold. Because some stories aren't looking for a solution, they're looking for space. The most attractive thing in a conversation is not performance, it's presence. Not a voice that dazzles, but a silence that holds space for truth. Ask. Not because you need to be interesting, but because you are interested. That distinction is everything. So when you speak, let it not be a show. Let it be a bridge, built from the desire to meet her, not from the need to impress her. And if she crosses that bridge, it won't be because of the stage you stood on. It will be because of the seat you offered beside you. Truth is a quiet force. It does not need to shout, nor dress itself in disguise. It walks in calmly, with its head high and hands open. Truth has no edges, no gimmicks, no rehearsed rhythm. It simply is. And when you speak from that place, the whole room listens. The heart listens. We live in a world full of tricks, words bent into shapes they were never meant to hold, messages sent not to connect but to control, praise wrapped around empty promises, flattery used like bait. But a woman who has lived, a woman who has learned, she knows the sound of truth. She knows when words are heavy with meaning and when they are hollow with agenda. You don't need to dress honesty up. You don't need to lure someone with mystery, then keep them close with illusion. If what you say is real, it will be felt. It will sink in slowly like water into roots. You won't need to convince her. Truth never begs. It doesn't chase and it doesn't pretend. It just stands. When you speak from truth, your voice changes, not in volume, but in tone. It softens. It slows down. It becomes grounded. A message written in truth may not sparkle at first glance, but it will glow in her memory. It will stay, not because it shocked her, but because it nourished her. Too many are afraid that if they don't perform, they won't be noticed. That if they don't use tricks, they won't be loved. But truth isn't something that needs enhancement. It is the very thing we're all aching for. A woman may be surrounded by charm and cleverness, but she'll pause for something true. She'll lean in when she hears something real because it's rare and it's precious. Speak without trying to manipulate, without pushing her to feel something you haven't earned. Don't try to impress her with borrowed words or exaggerated stories. Speak as you are, from where you are. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be honest. It's not the most poetic line that reaches her, it's the most honest one. I don't have the right words, but I care. I'm still learning, but I'm here. These aren't lines from a movie, but they are lines that carry weight because they come from a real place. And a real place is where trust begins. Tricks can get attention. Tricks can start a spark, but only truth can build a fire that lasts. Only truth can sit with someone through the quiet hours, through misunderstanding, through change. Tricks unravel with time. Truth endures. If your message is full of illusion, she may smile, but her soul will remain untouched. She may reply, but her spirit will stay guarded. Because the heart has a wisdom beyond words. It recognizes what's real. It leans away from what feels too perfect, too calculated. It listens for what's human. Speak in truth, even if your voice trembles, even if you're unsure of the outcome. There's a kind of beauty that lives in transparency, a kind that can't be rehearsed. And when you give someone the gift of your truth, you give them a place to be honest too. That's where connection begins, in the space between two truths meeting without fear. A woman is not waiting to be tricked into trust. She is waiting to feel safe. And safety does not come through sweet words and rehearsed gestures. It comes through consistency, through clarity, through communication that does not hide or twist. Let your words match your energy. Let your message reflect what you truly mean, not what you think she wants to hear. She doesn't want a show. She wants sincerity. She wants to feel that when you speak, you mean it, that your words were not built for effect, but born from feeling. There's no shortcut to depth, no cheat code to intimacy. If you want to be remembered, let it be for your truth, not for your tactics. Let it be because she felt safe to be herself around your honesty, not dazzled by your act. So speak plainly, speak gently, speak with the strength of someone who knows that truth will always outlast the trend. Truth doesn't need the stage. It makes the world stop and listen. When your truth stands tall, it invites her to stand too. Not in fantasy, not in illusion, but in something solid, something sacred. And that is how trust begins, not with tricks, but with truth. So let the world rush and perform if it must, but you stand still in truth. Speak with care, not cleverness. Let your words reflect presence, not pressure. Ask, not to impress, but to understand. Let silence carry strength. Let timing show intention. Let every message be rooted in something real, something steady, something true. Because in a world full of noise and distraction, what endures is not charm, not tricks, not emojis or empty lines, but soul. A woman listens beyond the surface. She hears what is felt, not just what is said. And when your words are born from stillness, guided by intent, spoken in truth, she will know. She will feel it, not in her ears, but in her spirit. Don't chase to be chosen. Don't perform to be praised. Simply show up, whole, honest, and human. That is what she cannot resist. Not the mask, but the man beneath it. Not the noise, but the stillness. Not the performance, but the presence. Be real, be rooted, be rare,